Hi, welcome to Panoramic Perspectives. I'm not exactly sure that our intro music played online because we're kind of new at this. And our babysitter slash producer, Ken DaCosta, is away from his post tonight. He's usually here to help us with everything that goes on. And he's not here tonight. We'll be doing our own we'll be creating our own technical difficulties. Let's put it that way. Should any arise, we're going to have to handle them. But it's fortunate that we have very accepting guests tonight.
Yes, a little bit about our guests. It's us.
Ta-da!
This is how we started our first show, and we've done 14 shows, and this is our 15th. And wow, it's just us now.
Wow.
And that's good. That's how we planned it. So we're going to have some recaps and talk about what we've been up to lately as Panorama Paranormal.
As Carl mentioned, we've had about 15 shows, and you may have been present for a few of those where we had sort of, I don't know how would you put it, ghosts in the machine, some sort of a demonic presence in our broadcast, but those problems seem to have been eliminated. Thank you to producer Ken. And I don't think you'll see us flying around the screen tonight.
That's what was happening. We were having multiple screens, and they were jumbling, like shuffling cards. It looked like. Yes. But we want to talk about something, some about our methodologies and our approach to paranormal investigation and research, and we want to explain what we mean when we say parapsychology.
And if you have any questions for us,
please do. Yeah.
About anything. It doesn't have to be about paranormal research. We do other things, such as today. I asked you to accompany me on a hike because I didn't feel like going by myself. And there's something you don't know about that hike. When I got home, I looked at my Fitbit on my watch. We logged about 11,000 steps today.
In that time. It helped to get lost and take it. Well, not really lost, but we didn't hit the track on the way back that we wanted.
Lost. We just
right away.
Hit,
no, we knew where we were. We could hear the highway.
Yellow, orange. We both seemed to be a little bit colorblind for a while and ended up on the wrong trail.
I almost kept up with you. I made a good show of that. And I can't.
You kept up. I didn't lose you. You would have still been there if you didn't show up.
I'm just referring to my age.
Well,
I could see you up there in the distance.
So before we start I can't even talk tonight. Talking about ourselves.
What do you want to talk about first?
Oh, I was going to mention some of the wonderful shows that are here besides ours on Dead Air Full Spectrum. So if you haven't yet, please like and follow this channel for fantastic shows such as Monday Night Mysteries, Myths and Monsters with Chris Rondina and Ron Murphy. The Haunted Museum with Cody and Satori, no last names needed. They're on the opposite Thursday of us. There is also the Panoramic Perspectives is us. There are shows like Extremely Strange. There are some videos from some Rise Up investigations. Some of them are in 360, really trippy to watch, but really cool because you can see what's going on all at the same time. And there are even going to be a couple of new shows on Friday nights. Called, my reading glasses.
No, it's okay.
A World Awakening and Soul School Sojourn. That will be exciting. So those are other shows that you can watch either as they happen or after they're recorded on Dead Air Full Spectrum. So that is what's going on in the online world. What is going on in the real world?
We have a few lecture programs coming up, presentations. And that's going to be in the spring into summer and like extending into fall. I'm not sure of the date yet because we don't have a specific one, but we're going to be appearing at North Providence Union Free Library, and that will probably be, if not this month, it will probably be during April.
Now, if you watch that show with Amy and Adam, one of their recent investigations was at the North Providence Library where our talk will be given. Wouldn't it be cool if someone unknown decided to attend that talk? An extra guest.
Kindred Spirits is their show, and they'll yes, that library will be featured.
And what else do we have coming up?
Okay, then we extend into May. We've got May 10th. We'll be in Burrillville, actually a village in Burrillville, Harrisville, Rhode Island. You may have heard of that little nook. and we will be speaking at the Jesse Smith Library there. And that will be, I believe it's May 10th. Yes, it is. May 10th, and that'll be like 6 o'clock. Dude, that's a Wednesday. So
Is it?
Yeah, I believe that's a Wednesday. Hopefully,
Good to know.
hopefully we don't have any conflict of interest then.
No, I don't think
No.
we will.
Yeah.
And right after that, that weekend following is May 13th and 14th, which will be
Paracon.
You just like saying it
Yeah,
that
I
way.
do kind of. Yeah, because it's got the double N after Connecticut. Yeah.
And which town is that in?
Yeah.
I forgot.
That'll be is it Sonia? It's going to be in the Armory there.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I believe so. And that'll be in the Armory there, and that's kind of a big deal because it's their third, and I've heard good things about numbers 1 and 2 when they had Paracon, and they've got their act so together now, and they have an array of interesting guest speakers, and we'll be speaking there. Elise and I will be speaking. Heaven knows what we'll talk about. Find out.
And you have an event coming up on June 3rd that tickets are not being sold yet, I guess, but it's more like a save the date for June 3rd. Would you like to talk about that one?
What is it? What am I doing on June 3rd?
June 3rd is the psychic and the demonologist.
Yes!
And I'm not a psychic, so it's not me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, actually, I didn't know about that. That is going to be at the house in Harrisville, Round Top Farm, and it goes by several names, but the most popular one is the Conjuring House. And I will be there with Karen Tatro. And yes, she came up with that title, The Psychic and the Demonologist. You know, who will be who? Yeah, we'll see. But it should be quite a blending of disciplines and approaches to the paranormal. And I'm very much looking forward to that because it's going to be right at the house. And I went there a long time ago. I didn't invite you along.
Yeah, I was like 8.
I think you were 8 years old at the time. Yeah.
And the last thing I have on the schedule here is my favorite Paracon, Ocean State Paracon.
Yes.
Which will be back in the Ocean State this year because people didn't want to drive all the way to Massachusetts.
Right. I'm glad it's going back there to.
It's going to be back in Harrisville.
Yeah, by the Assembly Theater grounds.
It will be in the fall. Maybe it won't be 110 degrees, but being New England, maybe it will be 110 degrees. It's no problem. We go inside for the speakers, and it's nice and cool inside the Assembly Theater. Always a good time walking around, speaking to other people that have an interest in the paranormal. Yes. And one of the best excuse me, Paracons, in my opinion, because all of the proceeds go to charity.
Yes, it's a different charity every year. And Ken DeCasa will be organizing and making sure everything works and people get there, get the directions. But yeah, a lot of people are happy about it returning to Harrisville.
I think so.
You know, because of course it relates to the Conjuring House there. And it's just such a nice setting. It's a hobnobber because there are some people I only get to see once or twice a year there.
Yes.
And it really does bring people together.
Yes.
And that's what's best about it for me. And if it does get hot, we can duck into the air-conditioned Assembly Theater.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So that's what I'm really looking forward to.
Yes.
So that's on our roster, but it's increasing as we go along.
So that's what we had. Yeah. Things come up, and we're happy to talk to anybody who will listen, as evidence tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Well, welcome. We're so glad to have you with us.
So I can look down this list over here because I bet you can't read that far.
Oh, look.
That I can see without
I can, if I use these.
My goodness.
Oh, yes. I can see that.
Adam W. has a question. What is the scariest moment both of you have had involving the paranormal? I'd have to.
Oh, involving the paranormal, not
separately.
Just driving on the highway or getting someplace, you know.
We'll have to answer those separately because I don't think we ever had a scary moment together.
Not paranormal.
No, usually when you're driving. No.
Yeah, there have been a few.
No, let's talk paranormal. You want to go first?
Yes. Oh, scariest moment. It's hard because there are 3 scariest moments, and one of them was not the house in Harrisville, the Conjuring House. That was precisely, the movie came out, The Conjuring came out precisely 40 years after that investigation. It was 1973 when I was there. The movie was released to theaters in 2013. So the scariest moment would probably be my first actual residential case that I addressed. And I wasn't a member of a team. I was there solo. I was invited in to consult and evaluate. I didn't know I was going to be such a vital part of what was happening, because my first residential case turned out to be a situation of full-blown demonic possession. Now I could interpret that. I'd have to explain what I mean by that, but you kind of get an idea. I was invited to stay overnight. The subject was a 14-year-old boy. Let's call him Lucas. Why not? That was his name. And it was a house in the Armory District at the west end of Providence. And it was the 14-year-old boy was going under fits. So another personality was invading him. That's what it seemed to be. Now, at first, before I knew that situation well, I attributed that to probably dissociative personality disorder, by whatever term they call it now, and perhaps a form of epilepsy. And it was manifesting as different personalities. But boy, was I in for a surprise. I was invited to stay overnight and observe this Lucas. And it was it was 1980. At 1 a.m., I was reclining on a sofa adjacent to the boys' room, and I started to drift off, and I was suddenly startled into alertness by an ear-splitting scream. Okay, I jumped off of that sofa, went over to find the wall switch, fumbled for the light, turned on the overhead light. As I did so, the boy's bedroom door swung open, seemingly on its own, and his body was propelled out of that room by some unseen force. And I can't really convey an accurate description or of how that felt to me at the time to see this, but I'd never seen anything like it and really haven't since. His body was thrown out of the room, was spinning and careening into walls. He did a spider climb on the wall and flipped backwards. He was just all over the place, doing things contortionists shouldn't be able to do. And I just stood transfixed. And, well, then his family was alerted by his screams because he was aware of what was happening. But then something else dark and inexplicable took over him. He did a backwards flip behind me, landed on the sofa, and started jumping up and down, and this deep guttural laughter issued from his throat. And, well, he leapt at me. I tried to restrain this boy, and he easily threw me off. I was my normal 200 pounds. He just pushed me back. Then he came to his wits, but he was, except that he was terrified. So an expulsion was arranged. Expulsion is a name for a minor form of exorcism. It's not the Ritualis Romani. And we endeavored, I and some other people endeavored to cast out this invasive spirit. And what doesn't always happen, this was successful. He was helped. He was better after that. And just seeing what happened in that house, the west end of Providence, to hear the floor shaking, to have my chair with me in it move all the way back across the floor, to see him contorting and gyrating, and this other personality just took over him. We're lucky nobody was injured on what was happening that night. I was one thing that I remember. There was a picture of Jesus on a table, a picture of Jesus Christ. They were Roman Catholic family, and I was hoping the boy would look at that picture, that it would distract him and pull him out of his episode. And I looked down at the picture again about a minute later. It had inverted itself. It had turned itself upside down. Now, I was right next to the table. How that happened, I can't know. And but this boy started, this was unsettling. I just wanted to get back to my parents' house. I knew there was food in the refrigerator. Just why am I here? I don't feel right about this. They think I'm some kind of expert. But another part of me said, if I leave this house, I'll never be able to come back into such a situation. And I wanted to instill some confidence in these people, this family, that they were being helped. Lucas started to advance towards me. He looked like Dracula approaching, and he's menacing and coming towards me with this wild, feral look in his eyes. And I didn't know what else to do. I held up my hand and said, "Stop." And he did. He stopped. And I came up and I put my hands on his shoulder. I said, "You're going to be all right." And that seemed to break it. He was all right after that. Considering how severe these fits were, I was surprised that he recovered so quickly. I asked him several years later, I said, "You remember that time you were going under those?" Actually, it was just 2 years after that. I said, "You remember that, how you were and you were going under these fits and something was taking over you?" And he was nonchalant about it. He said, I remember a little bit about it, not much. So it was all right. That was one of the scariest things that I've ever beheld. And I'm right in the middle of it. It's like, I can't leave now, not conveniently, and I don't want to stay, but this has to be addressed. And another situation, which was rather unsettling, was I don't know if you ever observed a poltergeist in action.
Nope.
For those of you who have the chance to, I highly recommend it. It's fascinating. If you want uh, any confirmation that paranormal force is real, if you can see a poltergeist haunting, that's what to do. There's a case in Coventry, Rhode Island, and this was in 2007 and 2008. Again, I was called in my capacity as a demonologist. And well, if somebody asked me, and the people have, well, would you call that a human generated haunt? Was it a human haunting? Intelligent, interactive? Was it demonic? Was it poltergeist? I'll just say, yes, all of those. But basically, I'd categorize it as a poltergeist case. And this was one of those rare situations where we, the investigative team, were standing there watching objects propel through the air, like smashing against posts and crockery, mostly chairs moving around. That's it's fascinating, but you have to kind of brace yourself. I remained calm on the outside, but I was just like riveted to this. This may be my only opportunity to observe this. And I was in that house maybe 8, 9 times, and things happened every time we were there. So that was also unsettling. How about you? Scary yet?
How about me?
Yeah.
That's scary. I mean, the most activity I've ever seen didn't happen in front of me. It happened behind me.
Yes.
So I didn't see it. Where we were in a very old house, and it was a very hot night, and we were all sitting around the kitchen table with an air conditioner on. It was actually a public investigation. I was with Rise Up. I had just met them. I don't know if that was the first or the second one we had gone on together. And as we were sitting and talking, nobody had any recorders going because it was an air conditioner. It was blaring, you know how noisy they can be, those room air conditioners. And a woman said the name of a person who had lived in the house, and right behind me there was an easel with a display of wooden rulers that the family had made in their sawmill that was on the property, and or close by anyway. And the easel kind of just came forward and whacked me in the head.
And what do you suppose?
I don't know. I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, or the right place at the right time.
Could have been a
looking at me,
happy coincidence, but
it wasn't me that, I was not targeted. I didn't say the name. It didn't come flying across the room at me. It moved in an unnatural way. Let's just say that. An easel leans back, and it came forward, and it was a very heavy piece of, wrought iron or whatever.
Ken said that had been in place. I wasn't there for it, but Ken said that had been in place for decades, and all of a sudden it tipped over and hit you.
Yeah.
But it was a display of Westcott rulers, measuring devices.
Westcott wooden rulers.
And then somebody said, "Mr. Westcott, are you here?" And
yes.
I guess you got an answer.
So that was, about it. I've been in places, we've been in places where, you hear a picture drop off the wall in the other room. And
yes.
I just, maybe it's because my belief is if you're there looking for something paranormal to happen and something paranormal happens, that's just, basically a door closing or something dropping. Why be scared? If it was going to hurt you, it would hurt you.
I think we're more disappointed when you can, well, not disappointed, it's all educational, but if you can explain it or, nothing.
No,
really
I think
paranormal.
it's just pop culture that's made us come to expect the jump scare,
Right.
And it's fun.
We've been
I'm not going to say being scared isn't fun. I mean, people have haunted houses all the time on Halloween. It's fun. But I don't know, my brand of investigating and my brand of trying to figure out what's going on with the paranormal, the supernatural, whatever you want to call it, just isn't, I'm not looking for scary things, and I'm not finding scary things.
Right. But it's kind of tough for us to be scared now because, we so want an experience, but we're not going to grasp at straws and say, oh, I'm sure that was the ghost talking to us. I mean, it takes something to convince us.
Just like we hear footsteps on the staircase here at the museum all the time. And it happens mostly during the day. And, I've pretty much figured out, actually, now that I think about it, I think it's always during the day. And I think that the building heating up may have something to do with that.
Good point. That it's during
Because
the
it's
day.
always been I've always suspected that it is the weight of, because I'm the smallest person around here, basically. A lot of, men will come up and down the stairs, and about 10 minutes later, then you'll hear footsteps after it. And my belief is it's just the tension from the wood against wood letting go, that it's been, it got
It's
compressed
happened
down
so many times.
and it just got let up. I never
Exactly.
really found it scary. I just found it kind of humorous.
So pressure on the wood and temperature play together and make very convincing ghostly footsteps.
Yes, and that's why they call me the Killjoy.
Yeah, you had to have that reputation,
Oh,
but you could be worse.
Let's answer another question. My Killjoy attitude. Janelle says, "Good evening."
Janelle, hi.
Sarah asks, "Any new books in the works for either of you?" I'm not much of a writer. I've started writing some things down because what I do have is a voice going in my head constantly, and we have some great conversations. So I've just
well, you and the voice.
Me and the voice. So I've decided to start writing some of this stuff down, and
Good
maybe one of these days it will gel together, and I will come to some sort of a cohesive, coherent conversation rather than just random thoughts. So that's my only plan for a book. Not really.
I, on the other hand, am working on my second book, and it's actually, I think that's going to be, I think that's going to become like a planet separating these into a moon. I have two books in mind, so if I come out with two concurrently, I'm working on both of them. One will be my poetry, so I can get enough of it together. Yeah,
maybe it'd be
or
divinely inspired. Maybe a spirit will come to you and write the poetry for you.
Does that really happen?
I don't know. I've heard it does.
Yeah.
Let's see. Here is another question. I can show these too. I forgot. See, without Ken, I forget we can do things.
We have powers we can get.
Do you believe that the continued infamy of major demonic cases lead to maintaining a certain connection and power level to those entities? That one's for you.
Yes. There's your answer. Yes, I do, because there's power in names and concepts. A name can resonate. And well, there's the movie The Mummy, 1931, and I remember the academic came in. He's telling about the curse of the mummy. He says, the ancient spells are weaker with time, but many are still potent. Because if something is believed in, it assimilates a kind of life of its own. The names have power to them. Some people saying them, it might not make any difference. I don't think there's power in just the names, but if they resonate, if somebody says them with dread or feeling, they can do things. And if something's believed in enough, it takes on its own kind of truth. So that's why demons can be a force. That's why these ancient deities that have been relegated to demonic connotation. I do agree with that people can be, if people dread something, then it takes on its reality. And it's not just psychosomatic, it actually becomes what people think it is.
Yeah, because you never really read credible cases about, a happy-go-lucky family moves into their dream home. It's a movie plot. Happy-go-lucky family moves into their dream home, and the demons start attacking them that were in the basement. No, in real life, we always find out that there was something truly evil going on, and it was usually in the family. We talk about, criminal activity or psychological torture or something terrible. Usually, if you dig, and you don't even have to dig that far, you will usually find out that there was something going on. Yeah,
and somehow the family that moves to a location, they triggered that. They might dig into something, some influence that was already there. But I've been a demonologist for most of my paranormal investigating career. So that's 51 years this year. And I have never addressed a demonic case that didn't have some kind of psychological imbalance to it. There is always someone in that family or people in the family that have a serious disturbance, unresolved conflict. There's always something.
And a belief in the demonic.
Yeah.
Angels and demons or some sort of church thing.
Yes.
Whereas if that same family moved in, did not think that demons exist, had those same problems, it would probably manifest itself differently.
Yes.
Repressed
trauma.
Yeah.
Unresolved conflicts. You dig in through the interview process and then doing your own research, find out something went wrong with this person or these people that they're going along the track. Their life seems normal, but something happened to divide it.
Yeah.
And it comes out. And even Sigmund Freud talked about that. He said suppressed emotions were only surface in uglier ways. And sometimes it creates the demon. I call it parapsychological projection, where this thing is actually the conglomerate of emotion and trauma is personified, and it answers questions for people. They say, why does this happen? We were just living our lives, and then this thing comes into our home and disturbs us, and we can't live normal lives anymore. We find out it wasn't all rosy beforehand. And if they blame it on a spirit, let's say a demon, then they have their answer. Now we know it's not us. It's out there. This thing is attacking us. Get it out of our lives, and we'll be okay again. No, it has to be deeper than that. You have to find out when it started, how it started, and say what's bothering you. Why is it picking on you? It's not just an innocent, unaware victim. They may not deserve the onslaught of paranormal attack, so to speak, but something brought it on.
How
Something
about another demon
psychological.
question
Oh, I
for
like
you?
them. It'd take me 10 minutes to answer each one, but sure.
Well, because this is in reference to your book, so you have
Oh,
to answer it. In the book Shadow Realms, you had written about the oppressive force attempting to influence you. Does a strong sense of a self-identity help discern between personal psychology and external forces?
yes, it did for me anyway. That case I was talking about and happened in Providence, Rhode Island, the demonic case, the boy that was afflicted. At one point, although I was staying detached, I was like on edge, apprehensive, let's say, but I was just being myself. And then at one point during this expulsion, I felt attacked. I felt an onrush of emotion that was alien to me. It was rage and terror combined. A voice in me was saying, jump out that window. It was compelling. But I'm thinking, this is not me. I don't know what's bringing this on. Look at the setting I'm in. I'm not going to let this get to me. I did not expect this. And it's just, I concentrated on my own sense of self. I probably said a prayer at the time. And I felt fingers as I was resisting this onrush of emotion. It felt like fingers in the back of my head and pulling at me. It came out of me, and the tension was gone. It seemed to transfer to a lady who was in that room, part of the expulsion. This lady fell to the floor and started pulling out her hair, handfuls, right when it came out of me and seemed to transfer over to her. So that was real. That was psychic force. Do I think it was actually a conscious demon? Yes, perhaps a manufactured one, a synthesized demon, but it went from me to her. So yeah, I was able to separate myself from that. But somebody else, perhaps not as familiar with demonic haunts. I don't know if my experience was even helping me then, but somebody else might have given way to that and had a violent episode, attacked or jumped out that window. So yeah, I had to separate myself from that.
If I could add a little bit,
Please do.
Just and not that I had the experience, but just from what I've read and some of my thoughts on this, because this is panoramic perspectives. I'm giving my perspective, which is kind of like how I understand things and how I think they work. It doesn't mean it is how they work. But after that long explanation, I forgot what I was going to say. No, but you mentioned a strong sense of self, being able to keep you safe, I guess you would call it, not be overtaken by whatever force, feeling, whether you think it's psychological or an actual physical thing, but being strong and being able to stand up to it. I'm very surprised that so many people go into these investigations to say, okay, that's it, I'm going to be an investigator. Wow, I heard there's a demon in this house, I'm going to go check this out, without even considering their own their own makeup, their own ability to withstand something like that,
resilience.
They'll tell you how evil this thing is going to be before they get there, and not even considering I'll just carry this St. Michael badge and I'll be fine. That's it. St. Michael's going to save me. Yes and no. If you believe, I mean, if you have a deep faith that he will, it falls into that same kind of belief that this is an evil oppression.
Right.
That you can fight with fire, basically.
Well, I've known
but if
people
you're just going in, I hope I get this on video.
Well, a lot of people are going in for the thrill. They so want to experience something.
Right. I don't understand why people do that.
They can get themselves into trouble that way. Because once somebody's convinced they're under demonic attack,
right.
it's very
I'm
difficult
not saying that you have to
rid them of that.
Totally spiritually, armed and locked and loaded before you go in, and because somebody heard a couple of footsteps in a house. That I wouldn't say, I mean, there are some people who say that everything's a demon, but if somebody just said, hey, we got some weird noises in our house, can you come check it out? I'm not saying that you really have to have, a religious conviction to go fight that. But I'm surprised that, I mean, people don't sit and weigh both sides before they go. They just want to get in there. They just want to investigate whatever they think is going on. And the more evil, the better.
I think any paranormal team would be fascinated with something that's purported to be poltergeist or demonic, and they'd want to go there. And they may say, oh, that we're in over our heads. We need somebody like Carl. We need John Zaffis here. But it is a draw, to actually be almost guaranteed they're going to experience something. And then it helps to have a faith because they're not going in alone. They're not relying on themselves. It's nice to have celestial, aura on your corner and in your corner on your side. Know you're not facing it alone. But that's the demonologist's advice on that.
Well, what does a demonologist think about orbs?
Orbs?
Personally, I think it's like a camera thing, but I will qualify that by saying I am not an expert on camera things. I have listened to a lot of experts on camera things who have explained to me why orbs do show up in photographs and why it may be dust or, and or insects or whatever. And I tend to believe them. That doesn't mean I can't be convinced otherwise, but my upfront thing is I think they're dust.
Yeah, you think they're dust, yeah. I don't like when they get in my face. Orbs, I cannot make up my mind about. I think sometimes they're genuine. Yeah. Well, they're energy particles. They're displacements.
Have you seen an orb float by you?
I have. I've seen that. I've seen it not. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've had that experience. In fact, quite definitely. I've seen these round things come across, and then they all of a sudden they're going like a bubble bursting.
How far away from you do they come? They come close?
Sure, they're like 3 feet, 5 feet away. Sometimes at the other end of a field. Yeah, so sometimes they are genuine energy containments. But like if somebody's got 3 orbs, it doesn't mean they've got 3 ghosts. They're so easily produced by digital photographs, and they can be moisture droplets. They're illuminated by a flash. They get insects. So I generally am dismissive of them. I don't say there's nothing to them whatsoever. They're probably rare when they're genuine, like energy balls. But I did an experiment in Huggy Mug Swamp when I was there with the TAPS investigation. Of course, I had to go off on my own and be rogue for a while. I don't remember experiencing anything that you could say concretely was paranormal while we were there, although it's a hot spot, for convergent activity. But there was a transformer on a pole, the box. And I took 2 pictures of that. In one of them, it was just static. There was nothing happening. I think it was outputting because in my next picture, there was this explosion of orbs all around it. I mean, it was like a shower of orbs. And I think that was the electrostatic generation there. I think that was a genuine but explainable phenomenon.
It was Optimus Prime.
Yeah. So,
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm such a child.
Oh, well, it's fun to be.
Transformers, robots.
If paranormal wasn't fun, I wouldn't keep up with it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Paranormal and parapsychology. Don't they mean the same thing?
Well, actually, if you're talking about parapsychology, let's see if I can do the technology here. Here's something that. There it is.
Oh, there we go. I like that chart. Side chart.
Psychology, there are 3 different types. Receptive, which is, say, ESP, receiving messages mind to mind. Expressive PK, expressive psi, which is psychokinesis. You can move things with your mind. I was actually watching a show about some people doing that the other day. It was really interesting. It was like that experiment we did with the Friends Paranormal group.
Yes.
And we were trying to make little whirly birds move around. And I came up with a good idea. If my friends from there are watching, these people were using clear flower vases and putting them upside down to make sure that there was no wind, you know.
Well, air currents moving them around.
But and then spiritualistic side is the possibility of survival of consciousness after the death of the body. And someone put all of these different, you know, things that come under psi abilities into these categories. Just, I mean, instead of just having a willy-nilly list of a million different things that can happen. Telepathy, clairvoyance, psychometry, hauntings, those are all receptive side, things that you can receive messages from, you know, person to person, from a spirit to a living person, to get messages from a rock. I tried that one. That never works for me. Because I
rocks
love
don't answer
stone
you?
walls. They never answer me. That I started out when, you know, I started just, you know, this whole paranormal thing. Oh, it's fun. But then you start to learn a little bit more and read some more books. And I found that psi really was the thing that captured my interest because it dealt with people, I guess was maybe the reason that it kept my interest. And so I, you know, I started taking some classes at the Rhine Institute. And as I learned more, I surprising to myself, became more interested in the spiritualistic part of psi, and because I believe that all of the things that we're looking at now, when I say I believe, it's my perspective, and I have to realize that I'm as right as anybody else because people have been studying this thing scientifically for about 140 years and nobody has an answer yet. So I think my guess is as good as anyone else's, and I think it's all based on human behavior. Whether you believe that a consciousness is still around after death, you believe it's something caused by a living person, whether you believe we can speak to these people, if apparitions appear of dead people or living people, you can have an apparition of a living person. It all has to do with people. So that's the area of psi that just has my attention at present. And even learning about that, I've started learning more about not only parapsychology, but psychology, which is an inexact science in itself. It's a little more established than parapsychology, but
like the way you put that.
That doesn't have all the answers either. And in learning that, you start to wonder, what exactly is it we're trying to figure out?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people are getting messages through their consciousness. What kind of messages are you looking for? Are you just looking to see if Aunt Tilly is still around and keeping an eye on us? Are you hoping to get, you know, knowledge? They go the stairs again.
Yeah, here are stairs.
I don't know if you heard that click.
That was probably for me coming up the stairs an hour ago.
Yeah, but it's nighttime. That doesn't usually happen at nighttime.
I'm heavy.
Are we trying to get information about the universe from, you know, some major source of information that is out there? There are just so many possibilities of things that you can explore, I believe, with this spiritualistic side of psi. And spiritualistic doesn't mean just believing in spirits. It just means that it's not, you know, we're not looking for a physical explanation. Again, there is just so much to learn about this stuff.
There still is.
There really is.
I think a lot of paranormal investigators proceed under the premise that we've got it pretty much figured out. Yes. I mean, we know because of great advances in detection devices and equipment that spirits move among us and they're aware of us, and sometimes they get rather lost and they need to be crossed over into the light. And it's up to the psychic mediums and the parapsychologists or the paranormal investigators to move them over and help them find peace. And sometimes there are darker entities.
I think when you have a client that is asking for some entity to be moved You know,
Yeah.
when you're approached with that question, you know what I mean? Not, oh, I think I have something here. I heard a person's voice in my ear. I heard footsteps in the hallway. No, people, the calls we get, I don't know about you guys, they seem to have it all figured out and they just call us to remedy it. Oh,
Yeah.
please, we got a spirit floating around the house. Cross it over. And I'm like, do you want us to investigate or not? Or are you already telling us what your problem is?
Oh, the self-diagnosis. Yeah.
Because there's so many TV shows. I have a demon in my house. Are you sure? Would you accept any other explanation if I came to investigate in your house? Would you expect any other explanation of something that's nope? It's definitely a demon. Well, then call a priest.
Yeah. If it's that
Call a priest.
subjective.
If it's a religious problem, call a religious person to answer. And then they tell me they don't have a priest. So how do you know you have
Do you know
a
there's
demon if you're not religious?
I was being facetious about we've got all this figured out and we know the spirits among us all the time and they need to be crossed over. I don't know if crossing them over is necessarily a good thing. It usually works. It keeps the spirit at bay.
Who do we think we are that, we know better? Unless you've got an apparition standing there and whispering in your ear, please help me find the other side. Help me find the light. Then go ahead, help them find the light. But I mean, I'm talking as someone who is not a medium.
You're not.
I know some people who I trust that haven't really, I mean, it's awkward when you know people who are mediums. You don't want to just have them like a trick pony, you know what I mean?
Yes.
You don't want to say, hey, tell me about myself and maybe I'll believe you and take you around to talk to spirits. I mean, I'm not like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's very
well, it answers things,
Have you guys encountered any fraud mediums? I haven't encountered anybody who's deliberately fraudulent, like that I know is charging people money. I've heard of some, even famous ones, that are charging people money and just making stuff up or Googling them and just giving them information. But I think I do know some people who they believe in what they're doing.
Yeah.
They believe they're right. And I think they may just be very talented and, reading people in their psychology.
Maybe they attribute that to special ability.
Yeah. Which it's a wonderful ability to have, to be able to read people.
Yeah, they're just extraordinarily perceptive.
They're not really reading people, And then, sometimes they come up with things like, oh, your grandmother loved you. Yeah, whose grandmother didn't?
Yeah, you watch out for generalizations.
He's got a grandma that loved him.
Yeah, I have seen it actually perpetrated and faked. But most of what I've encountered is people that are sincere. They believe that. But where do you stop? When does, just normal, if accelerated perceptive ability, where does that leave off? And where does the actual psychic ability to receive information, where does that kick in? Sometimes it's kind of vague, the difference between the two.
And from what I've read, I've done a lot of reading on psychics and mediums and channelers, and that, like any other talent, it comes and goes. If you're a baseball player, you're not hitting every single ball that comes at you. You're going to have good days and bad days. Some are better trained than others. Mm-hmm. I've heard it's an ability and a talent, just like a person can have an artistic talent, and it can be a natural ability. It can sometimes be developed more clearly. You send a natural artist to an art school, they get even better. You can send somebody who can only draw a stick person to art school, and they'll get a little bit better. And I think that from what I've read, psychic abilities are a talent and can get better, but they're going to have off days. And what I say is, what if you're one of those famous psychics that is doing a show in a stadium and you're having an off day? What are you going to do? Lie? I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah, and they may have
tickets. You can't say not feeling.
They may have a sold out theater. They're going to have an audience, and they don't want to.
Feeling it today.
If I was in that position, I would be just as content to say, "Folks, I'm just not getting it tonight. I don't know why it's why I'm not plugged in."
Easy to do on a small scale, but really, when you've sold out, the Civic Center.
Then that really is tough. That puts somebody in a certain position. But people want answers. It's endemic to our species. It's an intellectual race. We want answers. It's hard to say.
So we want them quickly.
We want them right away. We want direct answers. And the case of a demon or spirit of lost loved one, that supplies answers, but we just don't know. Now, some persons, in fact, some demonologists especially, will say that when you receive voices from the beyond and impressions, messages from those who have gone before, that's really a demon masquerading, or demons masquerading as those who have
That's
gone
what they
before.
say.
Well, again, it supplies an answer. It's no more plausible than I think it's actually easier to believe that these are from spirits that have gone before. The fact is we just don't know, but that supplies an answer, and I'm cautious of an automatically supplied answer. One of my pet interpretations of a demon is a poltergeist with a really bad attitude. But yeah, and I think a lot of that poltergeist, I keep hopping on that because that's a principle that can be manufactured. You can synthesize a spirit in a sense. Now, the theory behind it, you could be drawing in something that's already there, or perhaps our minds, some part of the murky recesses of our psyches, are generating this. But people seem to be capable of creating poltergeist activity. And that doesn't always mean dishes flying around the room. That's a lot of it. But it can also mean subtle things like getting messages and automatic writing and Ouija board planchette moving around. That can be.
Some people say it's operating on a certain vibration
Yeah.
that gives you that ability to connect with a being with a similar vibration, and that's how those messages come through. That's why you might see like trance mediums, or
Yes.
cases sleep through it mode. I imagine that could be true. I mean, it's true of regular people.
Yeah.
Where if you're on a certain vibration, when you meet up with somebody, if even someone you don't know, you approach the counter and the kid is standing there at the coffee shop. In our mind, yes, there's a judgmental. I like them. I don't like them. It's human nature. It's fight or flight. It goes back to all that human nature where you just get a feeling about somebody. But I think it goes deeper than that, where you just get a feeling about somebody.
Yes.
It's not so.
Which I've heard of quite definitely, that people get.
You put a bunch of people in a room, and like people will find each other, not just based on their physical appearance. People will, people who operate on the same vibration will connect, and supposedly that will help you. If you're at a certain vibration, it'll help you connect with a spirit world that is on that same vibration.
I'll tell you, there's a good formula, and there aren't too many formulas for actually banishing a spirit. That despite what you see on television and read about sometimes, that that you can come in and get rid of the spirit. For me, it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But the best remedy for a haunting, especially a demonic one, bring in a skeptic. I mean, a dyed-in-the-wool, hardline, unassuageable skeptic, and talk with them. Why don't you believe? Well, because that's in the face of logic.
You mean a real skeptic, or just somebody who says, I'm not even going to listen? That's not a real skeptic.
That's no more rational than somebody who's like seeing spirits and hearing them every
right.
Like a street light flashes on and off. I don't know which one I'd prefer not to talk to. But
right, a skeptic will say, I mean, I like to think of myself as a skeptic.
Yes.
Like I said,
slow to believe, like cautious, weighing,
right. I'm not going to believe the first thing somebody tells me, but I'm not going to discount it either. What is it? Meteorites? I remember reading a story. I think it was meteorites that people, could not exist, could not possibly exist.
Oh, that's right. These things. That's right. That was. Who
was that? I forgot.
I think it was an 18th century treatise that why they couldn't. Why meteorites couldn't exist.
Possibly exist, and then one goes flying by, and they're like, oh.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But Ryan understands, and he's a very good example. Like energies attract.
Oh, hello, Ryan.
I liked you when I met you. I was like, this is a nice guy. It was just I don't know, just a connection before we even started talking.
Right.
I knew we'd get along.
I like the skeptical approach. I like to think of myself as somebody that's, I don't know, skeptic is such a loaded term. Either you are or you aren't.
Right. And when it comes to people, you don't want to be like, prove to me that you're worthy of talking.
But I invite that conversation. If I have certain acceptance, I don't know if I want to call it belief, that's going to stand up under the scrutiny of somebody who's very skeptic, pointing out logic, hard, cold logic. why this can't be, why it's wishful thinking.
Right.
I need to talk to these
And
people. I need
I'm
to
just
listen
going to
to.
defer to somebody who has, I don't want to say expertise, but yeah, I guess that's expertise, experience, somebody who knows more than me. Like I said with the photography, with the orbs and stuff, you know, I really don't know a lot about photography. I take pictures with my phone like everybody else, and sometimes they come out good, sometimes they don't. I never had one of those nice cameras that have the focus, and
Yeah.
so when something comes out a little bit odd, I'm always going to defer to somebody
Yes.
who knows a lot more about that. I could say, "Oh, it looks like a big blob to me," and they'll be like, "Oh, that's the reflection of the tree, or it's reversed, and that's because the light's coming in from this angle." And I'm going to believe them because they know what they're talking about. Doesn't mean I'm going to base all of my, you know, you could never photograph a spirit because they said this one just happened to be a photography anomaly, I guess you'd say. Um, so I mean, but when you get into a lot of this is all based on people's experiences,
Hmm.
this paranormal
Right.
realm, or what people are reporting, because it's hard to recreate in a laboratory when you say
That's why
you
this.
want to be
Yeah.
scientific.
Such a dearth of incontrovertible evidence that you can just lay out or repeat in a laboratory.
Right.
That
And I would
doesn't work
love to
that
say
way.
that I could sit here and somebody's going to tell me a story, and boy, he was really shaken up. So I'm really going to believe every word he says, and I'm going to believe this story and see, what we can investigate. That's going to be a theory that we're going to, start out with,
Yeah.
to investigate and go through a scientific investigation and figure out what's going on. But I mean, people aren't honest. People are not always honest. People are dishonest. People can be dishonest. People can be mistaken very easily.
I don't know. I just bought a car 7 days
So,
ago. Maybe I should think it over a little more than I did.
that's what really is a hard thing to determine in this field, is you're basing, all of this information and trying to come up with a hypothesis that fits, the majority of
Right.
experiences, not knowing if the reports that you're getting are solid. Let me put it that way. Some people are just doing it for, I don't know.
It's not easy trying to combine. Yeah. Well, yeah, renowned. That's it's easy to become
Which I think there are a
well-known.
lot more of those these days because there are so many shows.
Yeah.
That they're, people are like, oh, I'm going to get on that show because I heard a noise in my kitchen.
Hmm. And people are so willing to believe, like talking about, I don't know, to use a hackneyed term, debunking. Uh, I went to Precious Blood Cemetery and some years ago, and there was a room of the Governor Porthier. He was mayor and Governor Porthier in Precious Blood Cemetery in Woonsocket. He has a massive crypt mausoleum and with steps, and it looks like it's modeled after the Grecian Parthenon. And the story is, if you knock on that door, the governor will knock, because you can actually, when they've repaired it, but you could actually see his bier where his body was laid out.
Hello,
Yeah,
doctor.
I took pictures there. I almost lost my camera in the process. Once that goes down, you're not getting it back. But officer, can you open this door? But I tried that experiment. Don't. Lo and behold, I'm walking away. Boom, boom. He knocked back, and it wasn't so hard to figure out. It was May. We had a day that was approaching 80 degrees, and it went down to the 50s at night.
Yeah.
Now this was dusk. The temperature differential. If you there are panels around. They're screened, and in one of them the screen is broken in, pushed in. I put my hand in there. It was really warm, fetid air inside the mausoleum. Take my hand out. It's cool, warm. All right. During the daytime, it was hotter outside than it was inside, but then that starts to switch. You get that warmth, and it's cooling off outside. The door was steel. It's contracting. Boom, boom. So I waited another minute. So, there's knocking again. That happened at the water wheel pit at Slater Mill too.
Yes.
With a very dramatic effect.
And you were willing to look into something like that, but the story's been around for a while. And if you were just some kid, even a high school kid, because at least they're taking physics, that didn't understand that kind of thing, and you went and you heard that noise, so you go and tell that story to somebody else too.
Hardline
And
skeptics,
the myth,
yeah.
just continues.
Right. They miss out on a lot too, because there is something, a principle called untrue truths. Sometimes the impossible does happen. Sometimes you can make the impossible happen. Well, when we were at a psychic experiment at a Christmas party, where they're all psychically inclined people, or paranormal investigators, I should say. And my little paper umbrella thing that we made, I had quite good success with that. But I wasn't under any pressure to perform. I didn't care if anybody else saw it. I'm not like, look, guys, what do I want to ruin it for? Or what do I want to show off if it does work while they're looking? I'm looking at this paper. I'm imagining it moving, and the cone of paper on the stick, it's moving, and then it moved. Okay, now go the other way. Now stop halfway. And it was doing just what I commanded it to do. That was enough for me. I didn't need anybody else to. I did go a little overboard with the spoon bending. No, because we were bending spoons, and I was like, I was having such success with our experiments.
Can't figure the guy with the big hand.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm going to get that, and you shake it and get it like that. By gum, I bent that. I wanted it to move, and I said,
go figure.
At some point, my mind took over and said, I can move this with a lot less effort. I can bend this spoon, But it looked impressive. But I did tell everybody, I helped it along. I didn't mean to.
Yeah. What do you think of Uri Geller? Spoon bending. There were reports that when he was on television for the first time doing his spoon bending, that people were calling the station saying that there were spoons in their drawers that bent.
Absolutely, I believe that. I do believe it. They're not just jumping on the bandwagon. Things were happening because people were so impressed by that. Then Uri Geller kind of fell out of favor, and spoon bending stopped on his end, and the people who were watching, But when people were so mesmerized, so amazed by his ability, it creates something. It creates that spirit that can manipulate things. Spirit, if you will.
He's still around.
Yeah. He's had about a resurgence of popularity.
I have the Gaia channel, and he had a show on there for a while, a short series. And, a lot of interesting shows on that channel.
Yeah, I remember when he burst on the scene along with his twin brother, Mark Spitz, in the Olympics. Yeah.
It's funny because I was going to mention that Uri was a very good-looking man, and I don't doubt that had something to do with his popularity.
Oh yeah, it does.
If he were some, look like a monkey or something, I don't know, or look like a frog, I don't think he would have been as popular. I don't think, he would have been on TV doing these things. He would have just been considered some freak.
Mm-hmm.
I think it had a lot to do with it, with him becoming, popular to put on TV shows and to show what he could do or not do. Or
if this
do you think people's spoons really bent in their drawers? I think people just happen to notice bent spoons that they never noticed before.
Both. I don't think thousands and thousands of people suddenly opened their drawers and the spoons were genuinely bent. And if they were a little off, they noticed it where they hadn't before. But I think some of that did happen.
Yeah.
Psychokinetically, yeah. I don't discount that. It used to happen a lot more when I was younger. Moving things changing, transmutation.
Well, I mean, if you do believe that people can move physical things, and it's just going to be little things. I've seen films of Martin Caidin, his name is.
Yes. He's good with those umbrellas.
Turning those little umbrells around and
he's
just sitting
genuine,
there, and a lot of these people.
I think he's
physicists and
conducted legitimate experiments with that and verified.
Right.
It.
So
a lot of people don't care to believe that.
And now, like I said, I became more interested in the psychological, I guess you would say, part of all of this. And I've started following some people who I guess you would consider them healers, where when you talk about, parapsychology and healers, most people think of shamans and, Reiki masters and people who are,
yes,
I don't want to say out there because they're not, but, somebody who's spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
But I've found these people like Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton, and there's a few other ones. I can't think of their names right now, but, talking about how your body has intelligence, your cells have their own brains, basically, and you can use your mind to heal yourself, which is a form of psychokinesis.
It is, in that sense,
I just find this so interesting.
The cells have their own memories.
Yes, yes.
And they have their own consciousness, in a sense. They have no ascensions, so to speak.
Right. That in addition to, healthy living is going to help you live longer, that you can actually just, I don't want to say will it, but basically, will yourself to be better
People have made
physically.
themselves,
And it's just,
by convincing they can be, people have made themselves impervious to darning needles and,
right, right.
and
You
injuries
can,
that should have like been severe
yes.
were not.
Placebo effect falls under that, where people, think that they're taking a medication and they're making themselves better,
Yes.
and it's just a sugar pill.
Mm-hmm.
So if that works, why not skip all the fakery and just will yourself to be better?
I participated in a seance nearly a year ago. It was May last year. Actually, two consecutive nights, and both had dramatic results. The second one much more so, and well, I know why it did. It's because of where we were
Did
and
it
how
make
much.
things move?
Yep.
Cool.
And wrappings in the wall, objects moving, people getting taken over. Um, it's because we wanted it so much in the environment we were in.
Yes.
We put a lot into it.
Yes.
If we had just said, "You there? Speak to us," might have got a little bump in the wall, but no, we got some very dramatic results. Chairs moved.
Oh,
It was scary, but it was, well, I just found it fascinating.
we should try
You
that.
know, well, we shouldn't. I can't
Yeah.
recommend it, but I do it.
Yeah.
Ouija boards stop working when I walk into a room. It's not that I'm so great. I just don't know, exactly why that happened. It used to happen. Things used to happen a lot more when I was younger. However, last week I was doing laundry and I washed my jeans and a nickel fell out of the pocket. I said, "Oh, I got my nickel back. That's good. Nickel back." And well, I put the nickel in my pocket, and overnight the nickel changed into a dime. Now nobody's going to care if they even believe, or if they even believe I'm telling the truth about that.
That's the thing.
But it transmuted, it changed itself into a different coin. And I've had that happen before. It's rare, but I wasn't planning it. Was there some spirit around that said, "We're going to show you a trick"?
Yeah.
But that's a pretty neat trick when
Why
you're talking about.
don't you offer them to say, "I'm going to put $1 in my pocket, turn it into 100"?
Some spirits leave pennies around. In one of the buildings on the campus of Slater Mill, of course, all three buildings were haunted, subject to paranormal activity. In the Sylvanus Brown House, which was built in 1758 and definitely had its memories. Yeah, in fact, my partner there I was working with, Robin, she'd say, your friend in the Brown House is at it again, leaving dimes.
Cool.
And she would have no reason to make that up, as she was,
right.
Yeah, pretty prosaic and skeptical, but she thought that was thrilling to find those. And I'd go in and, there are the dimes overnight. And of course, there's a motion sensor. Somebody would have to disrupt the motion sensor to open that door. We had to disarm it in the morning, and so nobody had gotten in there. So that's interesting. Why? I don't know. I think that's to say, I'm here. The spirit said, "I can do this. I'm here. It's all I can do. I'm a one-trick pony, but I can do this. I can leave you dimes."
Yeah, you gotta wonder why they can only do certain things certain times. Just heard, one wish of wind go through my house once and never again. That time I was talking to Joe Rainoni about the recorder that I used, and because he had a picture of the same recorder, we had the same one.
Yes.
But I never catch anything on mine, so I went home and I started talking to it. I'm
like, "Hi, Joe Rainoni, you were our guest."
My friends all catch spirits on this recorder. How come mine never works? And I listened to it, and I hear spirit. And I said,
"Yes, that's right. You captured that EVP
wrong.
In your house."
But then it never happened again. So, I don't know.
There's so many questions to beg.
Right,
are there spirits around us all the time, just knocking on our doors, wanting to be heard?
Yeah, just so many questions, no answers. I know that our
we keep
promo
asking.
promised you answers. I don't know if you'll want your money back after the show ends, but we really didn't have a lot of answers. But I hope you enjoyed having conversations with us.
Well, yeah, the questions splodge out the few answers we have. But as far as answers go, yes, paranormal activity, to my satisfaction, has been proven in a laboratory environment. I mean, that's small potatoes compared to what they're doing with the Hadron Particle Collider,
right?
Which is 16 miles long.
When you think of it as a kind of a supernatural thing too, it's not our known science.
It is supernatural in that sense, depending on how you employ the word.
Super science, could you call it? I don't know. Outside of the regular
Yeah, and I
things
equate
we know.
supernatural with impossible, but sometimes the impossible happens. When you accelerate a particle, a tiny thing, close to the speed of light, and collide that into another particle that's traveling at a momentum equaling
A
that.
whole nother show.
Yeah, strange things happen. The boss is a type of particle,
Yes.
and the Higgs particle, boson rather, Higgs boson particle, named after Higgs, who discovered this.
Yeah.
It flashes in and out of existence. I mean, out of existence, it's there and it's not.
Right, it's going to observe.
There's a particle that transcends time, that time travels.
Yes.
And that takes an explanation.
Yes, we're not doing a science show now because it is time for us to go.
No,
yes,
I'm just getting pumped.
Yes,
I'm just starting to get controversial.
Turn it over into a theoretical physicist.
Yeah, well, I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I hope our listeners have, and I hope we'll continue this. And you'll ask us more questions that we can open up to either debate or trying to resolve an issue.
Yes, and I'm going to
find an answer.
So we will say good night, and
yes.
Thank you for joining us. We'll be back in 2 weeks.
Thank you so much.
Don't know who our guest will be yet.
We have some ideas, but yes, we do.
Might even bring back one of those people who got jumped off literally last time with the screens jumping.
Yeah, that's how we apologize to them. We have them back with us.
But everything seems to be back to normal tonight.
Yeah.
I'll just have to remember press the right button when I end this show.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's been my pleasure.
It's been nice talking to you.
And sharing our conversations. This is how we talk amongst ourselves anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to us chat.
Okay. Elise and Carlson and Carl L. Johnson. Thank you.
Good night.
Till 2 weeks from now. Good night.
Leave and broadcast.